is the first thing I'm going to go over is I'm going to go over what we tried to do last time, to upload a file and finish what we didn't complete. And then after that, I'm going to see if you guys have any questions on the app that you guys submitted, or things that you were a little bit confused, or maybe things that you had problems with that you want a stronger understanding of. And then we'll continue on with our next step. All right, so just as a review of what we did last time when we were trying to add the ability to upload a file to our app, the first thing that we did was we went into the gem file in our application. So we're in library, and and then the file is here just inside the library directory, gem file. And we added this line, gem paperclip. And here we're just specifying which a gem to utilize. So we're adding another gem to a Rails application. And then we generated a migration to add another column to our book table, or books table. So the migration was in the directory DB, and it was the third migration. And you see that it was add attachment, books, and then picture. Then we rolled the migration by doing a Rails DB migrate. So then that change was added to the database. So at this point, we have a new gem in our application. We have columns in our database. And now we have to modify our HTML file. So we went into views and then new.html.erb. And remember that we modify this form tag so that it had, instead of method, we added this method equals post, so that we would use a post command versus a get, a post request versus a get request to submit the data. And then we also added another attribute called multi part equals true, right? To specify that that we want the ability to submit files. And this is where the problem was, that the attribute that we have to add is not multi-part. So let me go back and undo that. So the attribute that we have to add is actually enc type, which is the encoding type.
नानी मेरे यहाँ क्लासहरुमा जुत्ती नानीको खोइ
So the attribute that we want to add is enc type equals multi-part / form data. And so that gives us the ability to upload files with a post request. So I saved that, and then I went to application controller, and then we added the last attribute, book equals picture, or book.picture equals params picture. Now we don't have in our database, we don't have a picture column. If I go to the console, when we created the migration and we specified a picture attachment, let me load a book.find1. You see that we have picture file name, picture content type, picture file size, and picture updated at, but we don't have an actual picture column. So this, in our controller, book.picture, this attribute picture is created by something else. And so we have to go to the model and we have to add this line, has attached file, picture, and then styles, thumb, 100 by 100. So this line specifies that it tells the model to add an attribute picture for paperclip. Now paperclip is going to see this picture, and it's going to try to utilize the 4 columns that we created before in our migration. And then just to explain what this styles is, this styles, what it does is that it's telling paperclip that when you upload a file, to make another size, a thumbnail, that's 100 by 100. Yep. So later on we could use either the original image or we could use the thumbnail, and so it's nice because you can also specify other sizes. And so when the file gets uploaded, the paperclip just creates multiple copies of that image at different sizes. And then the other line that we have to add is this other line that says validates attachment content type picture. So, and then content type is image. So what this line is doing, well, let me explain. First is the name of the method, validates attachment content type, and then picture. Picture is the column that we want to specify. Or not the column, but the paperclip construct, which in this case is picture. And then content type, with content type, we're specifying what type of files paperclip should accept. So this right here, you don't have to memorize what it is. You can always look it up. But what this is saying is that we're only going to accept files of type image. If you wanted paperclip to accept files of type PDF, it would be a different something else. So that's what we're using image. We didn't add this last time. So this is something new today. And then the other thing, the last thing is that in our search, so search.html.erb in views. Now we added also instead of doing book.image as the source, so we have img height equals 100 and then src equals book.picture.url. So picture is the paperclip object, and then URL is the URL for where that file is.
And then in roots, we have to go back to roots. I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You changed before it was get, so it asked who's there too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So if we go to
I also have a question. That was, we changed it for adding a book. Do we need to change that to post for editing or updating the book?
Yes. So we'll do that next. I'll guide you through that. All right, so now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to create a new book with a file. So the last time, click on Add Book. Last time, the book that we were trying to create, let's see, I believe it was Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. And then I'm going to pick the file. So we already downloaded it. And then click Save. So it looks like it worked. So now I'm going to go search for Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. And you see that that's the one that we created just now. This one without the image is the one that we tried to create last time, but didn't work. So now it has the image there. So it looks like it works. Now, where is that image found? So if we look at the source code, view page source, and you see that the HTML that was generated here, remember that we did, let's look at that code. That's in search. We're trying to generate IMG height equals 100, and then SRC equals, and then this is what's changing. So that generated this, right? So this is where the image is system, books, pictures, and then 000, 000, 011, original, the Lion, the Word, right? So last time I remember that I told you that you can put files in the public directory, and that's where Paperclip is putting them. If you go to public, you'll see that there's a system directory. And that system directory was created by Paperclip. And then there's a books folder, pictures, 000. Let's see, how do I get there? 000, 00010, and then this one. So if you go to that directory, you can see that there's a directory called thumb that has the small, well, it should have the small image, but
why are there so many folders inside each other? What is there? Does that mean something?
That's a good question. So this is just what it's trying to do is trying to create the ID. So if you go, the ID is of this book is 11 really, but it's inside 3 zeros, and then it's 011. And the reason is because if you have too many, like, you can only have so many files in a directory. I think the limit is, I think, 64,000 files in a directory. So if your application has like millions of images, then you would not be able to have enough files in that directory. So that's why it breaks it up into multiple directories, so that each directory is going to have only a certain number of files, and then that requirement is met. Any questions? Any other questions? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do the let's see. Now we're going to do the editing, right? Oh, one other thing is right here. So we're doing if book.image equals nil. I think we should change this to if book.picture equals nil, in case that, because now we we don't really care about that other column, the image column. So if we, yeah, that's if we don't upload any image with our book. So let's try that. Let's try that.
You see it?
I think I did. Yeah, I believe I did. Click save. So let me do a book. Like, let's see. The name of the book is going to be a book, and then I'm not going to pick an image. So search for big. Okay, so for some reason it's not working. So let me see. View page source. Oh, okay. I remember why. Let's see. Okay, we'll come back to that one because that's a little bit more complicated. All right, so then what we want to do now is we want the ability to edit a book. All right, so for example, this book, I didn't upload an image. Okay, so this book, I didn't upload an image. Let me go back to it. So when I click here on edit, well, first of all, we need to update our form here. So let's do that. Let me update that really quick. So that's the edit.html.erb, right? So we have our old form. What I want to do first is I want to add a class form control to every one of these input elements. So if I go to find and then I go to replace, or replace all, I think. Let's see, replace. All right, so find, I'm going to replace input with input space class equals form control. And then I click all. So now you see that it added form control to all of them, right? Does that make sense? Okay, I just didn't want to go and type everything.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, so I went to here to find and then replace.
Okay.
Right. Okay, and then this one I'm just going to do manually. Save. Then refresh. See that now all of the elements are white. Right? So now what I want to do here is I also want to add the input element for the file. So that's going to be input form control. The type is going to be file. And then the name is going to be picture. And let me remove this image one. So picture. And then I think that should be it. So refresh. Yeah, so we have our file here. Now I also, in my form, I also want to update this to post. Or actually, it should be method equals post. I want to use the post request versus a get request. And then enc type or encoding type should be a multi-part form. I think that's it. Let me see. Multi-part form data. So multi-part form dash data. Okay. So that's the change that I made to my form. And then in routes, I also want to change the update from a get request to a post request. So let me know if I'm going a little too fast.
Let's try this out.
One more thing we have to do is in our controller, in application controller, we also have to change in the update method. We have to add add book.picture equals params picture. So let me actually save it. We did that for create, but we haven't done it for update. So now let me try that. I'm gonna try the same file. Let's see. Oh, okay. So if you have your form open before we did any of these changes, you have to refresh so that the form gets the different form. So click on save. You see that it works. And if we search for big, now the image is there. Right?
Get back in your crate.
Okay. All right. So any questions on that? And right? So I think that's it for uploading files, right? So it's a little more complicated, but you know, it's also better because if you upload your image versus just putting a URL, like if you just put a URL to an image somewhere in the web, they might take that image down and then your image doesn't show up. And if your users upload the image to your site, you have control over where those images reside. And so it's a little bit better.
Was it class form as well?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
You got it?
Same, yeah.
Okay, so I guess now we can ask if you guys have any questions at all. I know that there's a few people that have questions on the app. Some people are having some difficulties with their recipes app. So if you have any difficulties with your recipes app, know that it's due today, but you might still be working on it. So let me know if you have any questions. I do have the first question was Nayan was having some difficulty with a column, so I'm going to open up his workspace. Let's see. So where is it? Okay, right here. So the problem that he sent me was that this was the problem that he was having, this error right here, which says, so it's in line 48 in attribute assignment, and it just says unknown attribute name for recipe. So whenever you see the error that says unknown something, unknown something like unknown attribute, unknown method, unknown constant, that kind of thing, it typically means that it's not defined yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the library app, and I'm going to go to, well, attribute. An attribute comes from the database. So what happens is that when you have, for example, your recipe attribute, the model looks in the database and sees what columns exist in the database, and then that's how it knows which attributes a model should have. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the database to see if it's created correctly. So I'm going to go to app. Okay, yeah, can you run down? App DB, and then migrate. And then let's see. Oh, so actually it's not library, it's my recipe. So app and then DB, migrate, and then here's the migration. So name. Okay, so I'm gonna go here to my recipe, and then I'm going to try to do Rails DB migrate again. And okay, Rails DB status. Okay, sorry.
I think you're too close.
Yeah.
It's freaking out.
Okay, so I'm going to open up the Rails console and then load a recipe. So recipe. See, how do you spell this model? Models recipe. Find one, or actually new. So you see that the recipe just says, the recipe just has attributes created at and updated at, and it doesn't have any of the other attributes that he specified. So it doesn't have a name, it doesn't have a category, image, prep time, cook time, ingredients, method, right? So it doesn't have any of those attributes. Oh, one small error is that right here in this line 7, there's a space between the colon and the prep time. So that's going to give you an error, right? Symbols, when you have a symbol, you can't have a space. So I'm just going to delete that. So okay, so that should be better. All right. So now let me close this. So one thing that you have to remember is that these migrations, if you're in just describes what you should do to the database. But this migration right here is not the database. So if you change something in the migration, you're not changing the database. For example, if you add another column here, t dot string, let's say author, and then you save it, that column doesn't get created in the database. Because this migration is just basically a file that describes what you should be doing to the database, but it's not the database itself. Does that make sense?
So you have to run that particular code for the, I guess you would say column you want through the console, and then once it creates it here, it'll also create it in the database.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no other way around it, like adding it here.
Yeah, it doesn't automatically add it to the database. Yeah. Yeah. So you have to run a command to tell Rails, okay, run what I describe in my migration. Now actually do it on the database.
You have to do each column one by one, like for each TI string, you have to do it.
If you wanted to add like all of these columns, yeah, you would have to do one by one.
Okay.
Yeah. But so you have to, like, let me go back to what we had when we added, when I had my migration and this one, I added that column like that, right? So you would have to do something like that. And then you would have to do another add column, to add another column, and so on. So that's what you would have to do if you wanted to add all of these columns. But this looks like a mistake, right? That
Yeah, and I caught a kind of typo in mine where that attachment I had book instead of books. Is it supposed to be book?
it should be in you're talking about in here, create table books.
When we did the add picture to book migration,
Uh-huh.
I had book. It was supposed to be books.
It's supposed to be books, yeah.
So do I need to do another migration?
Did you already run it, or?
Yeah.
Let me look at that in a little bit, because Rails might be trying to be smart, and then it might be saying, "Oh, she actually meant books," and then it might have
Right now I'm
worked.
getting an error when I try to upload the book. I checked my other file to see what you might have something like that.
Okay. Okay, we'll take a look in after this error, but yeah. So this looked like an error, I think. So what I think happened here was that he created the migration, and then he ran the migration immediately before adding any of these columns. So when you do that, that's where you're going to get something like this. Let me do recipe.new. You're going to get something like this, where in the database, you just have an ID column, created at and updated at. And that's all your columns that you're going to get created. So you have to remember that when you create a migration or create a model, that in this case, we created the model recipe that created our migration also, you have to add the columns before you run rake db migrate.
If you did DB rollback, would you be able to then do the migration again with that stuff there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do Rails DB rollback, which just basically undoes the last migration. So it undid the migration. So you see that here we're saying, it says create recipes reverting, and then it says drop table recipes. So the opposite of creating a table is dropping a table. So it's undoing the creation of the table. And then now we can do Rails DB migrate. And Rails DB migrate is just going to run all of the migrations that it has not run. So now you see that it says create table recipes. So now that we run that, now it should have created a table with all of these columns because before we hadn't added those columns to this file. Now it should have created a table with all of those columns. So I'm going to go Rails console, then recipe.new, and now you see that it has all the columns.
Okay, I think I confused myself.
Sure.
For each of the columns, should it or shouldn't it have a different migrate file? Like where it says 2017-06, should it be a new one for each column?
No, what happened was is that Mayor should have put, before you migrated, you should have put in all of the things that you wanted for that migration, and then you migrate, which you just put in. You did the migration first, so that's why you go back so you can put all that information.
So you can put everything in the first command.
Yeah.
And you should, yeah. When you're doing if you have a create table recipes, you should put all the columns that you think you're gonna need.
Okay. And that first command.
Yeah, and then you do Rails DB migrate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, if you in the future, like later on, right, you want to add another column, then you do the other migration to add that other column.
Gotcha. And then it'll add it to the library files.
Well, it's not going to add it to this file, to this migration file. It's going to be in another file, but it's going to add the column to the database, to the same table.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's just because, let's say that you create this recipes table, and then people are using it, like they're adding recipes. You don't want to roll back that migration, because when you roll back a create table, the opposite of create table is drop table, which means delete the table. And when you delete the table, you're going to delete all the data.
Gotcha.
So if you create a table recipes, and then people have been adding recipes, instead of rolling back, which is going to delete all the data, and then adding the column and then migrating. What you want to do is you just want to add a column, because adding a column is not going to delete any of the data. It's just going to add the column, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it actually bad practice if you were to do a new migrate?
Yeah.
Like a list of them?
Yeah, if you just create an empty table and then you haven't rolled out anything, people are not using it, it would be bad practice if you create a migration for each column.
Okay.
Maybe I should just make a new migration for the, like uploading picture.
We'll get to yours in a second. Let's see, is Narayan?
Yeah, Ramir.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I have one more question. Like I gave a binary data type for image on the table creation.
Uh-huh.
Is that
Oh,
yeah? It's still okay.
binary for image.
Yeah.
You should do string for that. Binary is, I don't know if Rails has that ability to do binary with the database. Like the database has a binary type, but what you want to do is you want to do string so that you just put the URL of the image.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, and then Crystal, you have, now let's go look at your issue. So let me open up your app. And then close this. So you're saying that it's giving you an error when doing the migration? Or?
Well, no, not when I did I had already done the migration when we had our last class, but I realized going back and looking, I forgot to put the S on books, and I can't find the books.
Okay, so let me look at your migration. So DB migrate, and then is it this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so add attachment. Yeah, it should be books.
And then I tried to do a rollback, but it said that failed because there is no table called book.
Oh, right. Yep. So let's look at it. So let me go into library, and then you try to do. So one way to see. Let me explain how migrations work. Each of these files, the Rails application keeps track of which of these files it has already executed. And so when you run Rails DB migrate, it only runs the files that it hasn't executed yet. So it's not like it goes back and runs the first one again, the second one, because like, for example, create books, it already ran that, so it doesn't run that. So there's a command to see which ones it has run. So Rails DB migrate status. So you can see that it ran all of them, right? So
so like maybe I should just do a new, like generate migration and just do a new thing.
Yeah, so when so one thing that we can do, and sometimes we have to do this, is I just comment that out.
Okay.
So that then when we roll it back, it's really not going to undo anything, right? So Rails DB rollback. So it undid nothing.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to uncomment it and then change it to books. And then Rails DB migrate. It's like a little hack, right? That now it's running the actually add attachment. And so so if we do Rails DB migrate status, then now all of them are executed.
So let me try.
Can you go back up? What did it say? I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was saying, can you go back up? What did it say last time you did rail status? It didn't show up.
Oh, it did show up all three. Let me hold on a second, Crystal, so that I'm going to try to do another rollback. Rails DB rollback, just to show you what it does when not everything is executed. So it says down instead of up. Yeah. So up means that it's been executed. Down means it hasn't been executed.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to roll it again, Crystal. Rails DB migrate. And then now you can try uploading your image. So I'll get out of it. Okay, so anyone has any other questions on your app that you've been working on? Any problems that you're stuck on or anything like that?
In just this app or generally?
Just this app, yeah.
Okay.
Like the recipe app. No? Okay. All right, so then I want to talk a little bit about just in terms of you guys getting help, because this week I got pretty busy, and then I went in and looked at Slack earlier today, and I had a whole bunch of messages of people asking for help, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get help to you, in time. So I want to recommend a few things when you get stuck. Like the first thing that I would recommend to you is if you get stuck, post your question to the general channel. Like, if you have a simple question, post it to the general channel, or if you want, also post it to the Ruby Basics channel. If you post it to the general channel, like, there's other people that have gone through the program that may be that are pretty knowledgeable, so they might be able to help you in the general channel. So that's what I would suggest. If you have like something that's simple that you're stuck on, post it to the general channel, and they might be able to quickly help you, if in case I can't help you immediately, right?
There's an issue with like action controller. The line it's noting is not a line that exists in the.
Okay, we'll take a look at it in a little bit. And then the other thing is that I wanted to, instead of, I think it would work a little bit better for me if instead of getting messages throughout the day, if you guys want to schedule like an online help session, that some time where the sole purpose for that session is just to answer the question you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email actually I'm going to post it here on Slack, on the Slack channel, and it's going to be basically times when you guys would be available for like a session like that. And what I'm thinking is that I might just post that once a week, because some weeks you might not have a lot of questions, so we might just skip that session for that week. Other weeks you might have a lot more questions. So I think that's why my suggestion is that going forward is we have a session, an online session, where we can, or like the people that need help can just jump into that session. If you don't need help, like you don't have to join. But if you need help and you're stuck with something, you can jump in that session, and then we can have like a quick session where there's really no set time If it takes us like 15 minutes, that's it. Or if it takes us like an hour, we'll be there for an hour. But what do you guys think about that? Does that sound good? Okay. So I'll try to I'll post that with times to help you, so you guys can come to those sessions, and then during those sessions, you guys can talk about anything that you're stuck on, even if it's not a project that it's currently going to be due. We can talk about anything that you're stuck on during those sessions. So that's my plan. Try to help you guys better. All right. So yeah, Crystal, you're still having an issue?
I commented out the protect from forgery thing, but I feel like every time I do one thing, I got rid of that on the action controller. Now it says undefined method attached to file for the application record and book RB. Okay,
so if you go to app models and then book.rb, you have that. That's what it says, right? Has attached file. Does it say that it's not found?
It says it's an undefined method.
Have you tried? Let's see. Go to the console and then type gem list paperclip to see if you have the paperclip gem, and you should have paperclip 5.1.0. Does it have that?
It says undefined local variable or method paperclip. So.
Oh, are you you're not in IRB, or you're in the command line? I think you might be in IRB, right?
Oh. Says paperclip install.
Okay, so it is installed. So then try. And you restarted your Rails server right after you installed the gem.
The gem was installed on our last class.
Okay, and then but you haven't kept the server running.
No.
Okay. All right. Let me take a look at it then. Try restarting the server. See if that works. It didn't work. All right, so can you exit out of the close Rails, and then I'm gonna start it.
Close Rails?
Yeah. Do like Control C in the command line. Okay. Just because I was gonna start it over here. So Rails S-B $IP. And then preview running application. Okay, so click on add book. Thanks. All right, undefined method attach file for class. So, so it's if you go to let's go to book app models, and then book.rb. It should be has underscore attached file.
I don't know if I can edit it. Can you?
Let me, well, yeah, try editing.
Yeah, what is this? Okay.
All right.
Shrunk everything. Can I make everything request?
Yeah. So yeah, let me exit out of this. I'm gonna close the Rails server. So now now that I'm out, you can test it. Okay, so any questions that you guys have? You're good? Right. All right, so then now we're gonna do another app. One of the things that I think helps a lot is to just create. You're good?
It says book.picture equals brands picture and not identified command. Please install image mesh.
Oh, okay. Well, let me take a look at it after class.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So so the next app that we're gonna create is basically like I've been trying to give you guys a survey to fill out after every class, but oftentimes I forget to send you that survey, and then a lot of time has passed and it's just not useful. But surveys have been really useful throughout this whole Code the Dream process to really help us continuously get better and better and better. So to me, those surveys are really important. But I just forget to. I'm really bad at remembering to send out a survey. So what I'm going to try to do is we're going to try to here together, not just today, but just in general. We're going to try to create an app that is going to help us with the surveys. So the app is going to be a survey app that it's automatically going to send out surveys to people. And then people are going to be able to fill out the surveys. Okay. So first I'm going to create my app, Rails. Make sure that you're outside of your library folder, that you're creating the app outside the library folder. And then Rails, new, create a new app, and then it's going to be survey. So Rails, new, survey. Okay. Now go inside that directory, survey. And then do Rails S-B $IP just to test that our app is working. And it looks like it's working, right? So we have a completely new app and it's working. And then I'm going to go to GitHub. And I'm going to create my repository, survey, and add the remote line. And then actually I have to, let me see. Yeah, and git add, so I haven't committed anything. And then git commit. And then this is first commit. And then git push -u origin master. And then let me refresh my GitHub repository. So everything's there, right? Okay, so our app, what I want, let me open up, let me create another file here. Oh, actually, not another directory. I'll delete that. New file, notes.txt. So right here, what I want to do is I want to, describe what I want to do with my app. So first, I want the ability for people to be able to log into the app. So logging system. And then when they log in, I want them to be able to take a survey. All right, and then the survey is going to have, let's see, what kind of information is going to be in the survey. So the survey is going to have the date of the survey. And the survey that I've been taking is basically how difficult the class was. So, and then also, what else do we have in the survey? Let me open up that survey.
You can put comments about something you have concerns over.
Comments. I think it's just general comments, right? Let's do that. Let's do that for now. It's just when they took the survey, the difficulty, and comments. And we also want to know who took the survey. So we want like a user ID. And then somewhere else, I think we also want the ability to see like stats or like stats about a survey. And basically, what I want to see is I want to see like a little chart that tells us how many people rated the class as a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4. And then we also want to see comments. So ratings and a list of comments.
It seems like it would be good if you could do a search for the surveys taken based on the date, so that you're not having to look for everyone that was ever.
Right. Yep. So that would be good. So maybe search by date. And then we also, I think I also want the ability to email, automatic email. When class is done. So class is done, and then the computer just email saying like, hey, take this survey. Here's a URL to the survey. And so that I don't have to remember like, oh, I need to send the survey or create the survey. Okay. Now this, we might not get to this, in time, But right now my process is that I go to Google Docs, and then I create a new form, and then I have to add each question. So that takes some time. So even if I just have to press one button to let you guys know, hey, the survey's ready, that would still be a lot of help, even if the email is not done automatically. Right? I haven't done this app, so this is going to be also a good window into how to think about like creating an apps. And we're probably going to stumble in some places. We're going to come to some roadblocks, and we're going to have to backtrack and say like, oh, we shouldn't actually have done it that way. And so I'm just going to show you all of those problems, right? Because those are real problems, and you're going to encounter them. All right. So any questions so far? Okay, so the first thing is the logging system, that we want the ability for users to log in and log out. And I think that's, we're only going to have time today to finish that part. We're not going to actually get to any of this yet. We just want the ability for users to log in and log out, that kind of thing.
What we gonna use? I was wondering if we would use a table, but we'd want to add more things instead of replace things. Such as this actual survey information that needs to be almost like a micro post saved, attached to the user. So I'm not sure if a table would be a good idea.
It's a good question. So right now, just for the sake of well, we want to break things into small manageable pieces. And what does a logging system have? It has the ability to log in, ability to log out with a password, or log in with password, okay, and ability to change password, maybe ability to recover lost password. These are all things that you probably are very familiar with, right? With logging systems, like when you log into your email and other such things. Right, so this is what we want to create, or we want at least something that has these capabilities. This sounds pretty complicated, right? Like how would you even go about doing this? Luckily for us, there's a gem that gives us all of these abilities. So the gem that we're going to be using is called device, with an S instead of a C, device. I'm going to Google device. And then go here, and that's the gem, device. All right. So first we want to add it to our application. And now remember that to add a gem to our application, we open up the file gem file. And then I'm just going to go to the bottom and add the gem, which is device. So gem and then the string device. And then, so you're specifying that you want that gem in your application, but that gem is still not installed. So you want to do bundle install in the command line after you do that. Now the device depends, like device needs a few other gems to be able to work. And so when you do this, the gem system understands that it also has to install those other gems. So that's what you see here. It installed responders, the gem responders. It installed the gem warden, and a whole bunch of other gems that are needed by device. So now we have device installed in our application. It's added to our application. It's only, device is only added.
Where did you put it?
I just put it at the very bottom of the gem file. Now it's important to understand that we have a gem file for each application. So we added device to our survey application, but we have not added device to our library application. It's only in our survey application. Okay. Okay. So now I'm just going to create like a landing page. I want to create a landing page. So I'm going to go to my routes. So public, or actually config, and then routes.rb. And here I'm going to do, let me first go to my controller. So app, controllers, and then application controller. And then right here, I'm going to add an action called home. I'm just adding an action, home. And then in views, I'm going to create a folder for my application views. So application. And then inside that folder, I'm going to create my view for home. So it's going to be home.html.erb. And in there, I'm just going to have hello. And then in config and routes, I'm going to find the root, or actually I'm going to do get / just /. And then that goes to application home. So it's just like we did before, right? That we're defining a get request for that URL. We're sending it to application home. We're sending it to the application controller, and then the home action inside that controller. And then inside that controller, the application controller, we have the home action. And then we have, for that home action, we have the home ERB template. So let me restart my Rails application. Remember that I need to restart my Rails application because I installed a new gem. So now I'm going to refresh here. And you see that I have hello, right? So let me just make sure that everyone's caught up. Is everyone good?
Action controller
What is the error saying?
error. Action controller, unknown format, and application controller.
Let me check it out. Oh, yeah. So that you created the home HTML.erb file, and is that inside views and then application?
Yep.
So you have views, application, and then home.html.erb. Let me take a look at it.
Oh, I put the 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't find it.
I need to restart it again for it.
No, you just need to modify it. It should be good.
Is it normal for, I did the little icon to go up on the tab for my recipe app, but now whenever I open the other apps, like the library app and this app, that kind of pulls that.
No.
Yeah, it's still up on the tab.
Yeah, that is normal. That's just Chrome that because it's the same URL.
Yeah.
So
it's
then,
like,
yeah, Chrome is just remembering like, oh, that URL used to have the little icon, so I'm just gonna use the same icon.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm still getting the same thing.
Okay. But if you were to define it in your new app, then it would use the new icon. Or define a new icon. Let's see. And then go back to. Oh, there's two L's.
Now what am I doing with it?
So they were like,
I need to make a.
okay.
Right. So up until this point, we haven't really used Device yet, right? So what we wanted, we just installed Device. So now we want to go through the process of setting up Device, because there's a few things that we have to do with Device. So the first thing is that we have to run this generator. So we have to run this command Rails generate device : install. So I'm going to do that. So Rails generate device : install. Okay. So this is doing a few things for us. So first, you see that it created this file called initializers device.rb, and then it created another file, config locales device.em.yml. So those are just some files that some configuration files for device. Those configuration files give you the ability to change the behavior of the device in the future if you want something more specific. But for the purposes of this class, we're just going to go with the default device settings. So we don't need to change any of those files. All right. So then the next thing that we want to do is we want to generate the device model. So how device works is that device is going to store all the user information, or the information for each user is going to store it in a table. Now you can tell device what the name of that table is, right? So for most cases, we're just going to do a users table. So the next command that we want to do is Rails generate device, and then the model name. And then for the model name, we're just going to use users. So Rails generate device user. So once you run that command, it's going to look something like this, and it's going to generate, the important one is it's going to generate a migration for us. So now if I open up that migration app and then DB, you see that that's our first migration. So let's open up that migration, and then wow, like there's a whole bunch of columns for that table, right? So there's create table users. So we're creating a users table, and then there's a column of type string, that's email. There's a column string of encrypted password. So there's a whole bunch of columns that device automatically, yeah. So device automatically generated all of these columns for us for this migration. So it also has like the IP address of where the user signed in from last time. and other things. These things are commented out. So for example, lockable, by default, device doesn't give you the ability to lock out a user if they have a number of incorrect login attempts. But if you were to uncomment that, you can add that ability. Right? So we're not going to have it. We're not going to use it for now. We're just going to use the default columns for device.
Recoverable, right? Maybe?
Yeah, recoverable is not uncommented. So yeah, we are going to use recoverable, which is right here.
What's remember?
Remember,
Device is going to be like your go-to for anything, doing passwords and users logging in and logging out.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it just makes it a ton easier. Has already built all that built in. Because we wanted to do the ability to all these capabilities. We want our app to have all these capabilities. And so device already has all that built in, just makes it a lot easier.
Oh, that's where it's rememberable is where it stores the password.
So rememberable means when you close, let's see, when you log in and you're going back and forth with your app, you have to send some piece of information back to the server every time. Because remember that when you do a GET request or a POST request, every time you do a request, all the stuff that you loaded, it's not loaded anymore. So every request that you do to the server, you have to.
Bit of code that we use to remember the ID for the book between the different actions, between the different methods, like, so that it would remember that this is the book ID that we're supposed to be doing this method to, but this is doing it for the password to remember that you're currently logged in.
Yep. So every request that you make to the server is going to have to load the user that's logged in. So and the way that works is that it's in, like, every time you send a request, you're sending a cookie, and then that's how the server knows which user to load. It looks at that cookie, and then it says, okay, which user should I load based on that cookie? So then that's what it's doing. And so this now, when you close your browser, that by default that cookie just goes away. So the default behavior is that you log in. You're working with your app. You're logged in. And then you close your browser, and then if you open up your browser again and go to the app again, the app's going to think that you're logged out. So this rememberable thing is just to set it so that even if you close your browser, you're still logged in. Then if you open up your browser again, some people prefer their apps to be that way. I think it's just a preference. Yeah. All right, so it created our migration. So now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to migrate that migration. So I'm going to tell the server to, or I'm going to tell Rails to run that migration by running Rails dbcolon migrate. So that's going to create my users table, right? So it ran the migration. So now if I go into the Rails console, I do user.new. Let's see. It should have all those other columns. So why didn't it create all those other columns? User.first. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think device is hiding those other columns from us. But you can see that email is there, right? So that's the important one. That's email. Okay, so now, all right. Let's see. All right, so now I want to have a link for my users to sign up, right? So by default with device, the URL is users. Let me see what it is. Rails, routes. By default, the URL to log in is users sign in. Okay, so I'm going to open up my home.html.erb. Then I'm just going to create an href to users sign in. And then that's just going to say login. So let me refresh. Oh, I have to, I accidentally closed my Rails app. Let me start it again. Okay, so we have that URL. Now if I click on it, you see that it shows me a login with an email and password, remember me, and a button. So this form was created by device. So that's the nice thing about using device, is that we didn't have to create this form for logging in. There's also another link right here that says sign up. So if I click on that, sign up, it takes me to this other form, and it asks me for an email, a password, and then a password confirmation.
So it really cuts down a lot of time. The models and all that.
The funny thing is, like, how do you get to, if you wanted to change the styling for those things, would you have to do the same styling for the sign up as and just all of them for the user sign in? You would have to do the styling just overall for each step, or could you affect them individually? Because there is no sign up page that we can actually edit here. We don't have a sign up HTML.
Right. That's right. So, so this is what device gives you by default. But then if you actually want to edit these forms, device gives you a way to edit them. And basically what it does is it just, there's a command. Let's see. I'm not going to go into how to do that because that takes more time, but I'm just going to show you how it can be done. So configuring views. So if you do Rails generate device views, what that's going to do is that device is going to put these views into app view, into the views folder.
Okay.
And then you're going to be able to edit them from there. And so if you want to style them differently, or if you want to make them look differently, then you can edit them there.
Is this the wiki thing? What page are you on?
Yeah, this is the GitHub page. So if you go to how it got there, once I just search for device Ruby.
I'm on the GitHub
for device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how you get to that.
It's just keep scrolling, configuring.
No, I mean, how do you get to the part with the text? I'm on the part with all the folders.
Oh, just are you right here?
Yes.
So just keep scrolling down. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
that's great.
All right, so right here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sign up. So do ramiro.rodriguez@gmail.com. That's my email address. I'm going to put in a password and then click on sign up. And then, it just takes me back to the homepage.
Oh, I got it. No group bachelor's user sign in.
For this one, or
When I click login,
uh-huh.
it said no.
Is it sign_in? Is that where you made it?
Understand.
Yeah. Okay, so now if I open up the Rails console, let me see, new terminal, and let's go to survey Rails console. So if I do user.all, you can see that there's my user, right? And it has ID 1. So the device created that user for us, and it was able to do that. Any questions? Okay. But when I'm back here in the home page, I still see that link login, right? So what I want actually to happen is that if I'm logged in, then I want to see a link that says log out. If I'm not logged in, then I want to see a link that says log in.
So we're gonna do the same thing again, but just with the user logged out.
Well, we got to figure out if the user is logged in or not. What you want to do is you want to go to home.html.erb again, or template. And Device actually provides a method for us called user signed in, ? And then this method returns true if the user is logged in, and it returns false if the user is not logged in.
And it kind of lets you know what that particular user can do. Lets you know sign in users can get certain pages that are not signed in, they won't get that access. That's what that's
Well, you can use this method in conjunction to other things. But this method, the only thing that this method tells you is if the user is logged in or not.
Okay.
It doesn't give you any information about whether they should have access to this or that, or any of that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just whether they're logged in or not. Yeah. What's that?
That sounds overthinking.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put an if statement. So if, and then I'm going to call that method. And then that method is user. Let me go back and see. User signed in, ? Sign _in. And then if the user is signed in, I want to put a link for the user to log out. I don't know the URL for that yet, so I'm just going to put that, and then log out. And then actually, I don't want to put an equals. I just want to put embedded Ruby. And then else. And then end. So I have some embedded Ruby. I have an if-else statement, right? And so I have if user signed in, then I want to display this logout URL. Else, if a user is not signed in, then I want to display this login URL, right? This is just in the template. So now by default, let's see, the URL to log out in device by default is, let's see, users sign out. Okay. Users sign out. So if I refresh here, now you see that I have a logout URL instead of a login URL because I'm signed in. And I mean, what happens when you first sign up a user is that device automatically logs you in when you're creating the user. Now, another method that gives you is user method. And that method, current user, returns a user model for the user that is currently logged in. So you typically we would have to do something like we would have to use the active record methods. So user that find by maybe, or user that find one that loads this model. But instead of that, device gives you a method that returns that user model for the currently logged in user. So what I'm going to do is, if the user is signed in, then I also want to display the email address of the currently signed in user. And so I'm going to say welcome, and then in embedded Ruby, I'm going to do current user that email. And then it's that email is because that's the attribute for that model, right? If I look at my model, it has an attribute email, and then that's what I'm gonna use. Right here. Okay, so if I refresh, then you see that it says welcome, and it has my email address because that's the currently logged in user. So then if I click on log out, it's not going to work right now. Click on log out. It just says no route matches get users sign out. All right, let's see. So one of the things, so far, how many different types of requests for HTTP have we seen? We've seen GET, and then what's the other one that we've seen? Post, right? But those are not the only types of requests. There's another one, PUT, and then there's also delete. So those are two new ones that we're going to be talking about. We've only seen GET and POST. So there's PUT, and then there's also delete. So if I click here on this URL, By default, a link you're trying to do a GET request, and so yeah, that's what's happening. Now here, Rails tries to help you out by telling you that maybe look at these other routes. Maybe you made a mistake, and so if we look over here, these are other routes that Device created for us. And there's let's see, there are users sign out URL, but you see that it's doing, it wants a delete request instead of a GET request. It actually wants a delete request. So let me check. I don't think that this is going to work if we add method to a delete. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it matters, but we'll find out. Let's see, sign out. Yeah, it doesn't do that. Let me try delete just in case. Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay, so somehow we need our link to send a delete request, right? And it's a little bit difficult to do it with HTML. It's hard to remember. Like I usually don't do it with just plain HTML. So that's what I don't remember. But so far, we've been doing just href, right, for to create a link. So Rails actually provides to us a method to create links. And since it's a Rails method, it's no longer HTML. We have to put it in embedded Ruby. So embedded Ruby, and then the name of the method is link_to. We've seen it before, yeah. And so then the next thing that you want to put is you want to put the text inside the A tag. So in this case, it's logout. And then the next thing that you want to put is the URL, meaning the thing in the href. So we want to put users sign out, it's a string, and then close the ERB tags. So let me for a moment delete this method. And so these two lines, line 3 and line 4, are equivalent. They're doing the same thing. Both of these lines are generating an A tag, a link, basically, an HTML link. But in one case, you're doing the link by just writing out the HTML. In the other case, you're generating the link by calling a Ruby method that Rails provided. Okay. So just sometimes this convention is confusing. So just to let you know that I am calling a method, you can put parentheses around it. So link to is the name of the method, and then we're passing it 2 parameters, logout and user sign in 2 strings. If I refresh, well, I have to go back to home and refresh. You can see now that there's 2 logout links, and one came from this href, and the other one came from this link to. And if we take a look at the HTML, you see that they're exactly the same thing.
I'm still getting the root matches get user sign up.
Yeah, we still have to add one more thing. Yep. So then the next thing is that this method can take a third parameter, and that third parameter can be a hash. And I think we can write here method delete. So now I'm going to refresh the source code. And now you can see that now they look different. Now the second one, which we generated with our link_to method, now it has these two other attributes. Rel equals no follow, and then data method equals delete. Right? And so that's what Rails is using to be able to do a delete request. So now if I refresh this, well, first let me remove the first href that we added, and then refresh so that we only have one logout link. And then let me click here, and now you see that now it changed to login. Because now what it did was that it logged us out. Now that we're logged out, user signed in is going to return false, and then it's going to show this login href.
I'm still getting some error. Error on application.
Let me see.
Oh, am I doing something else? Then it's real easy.
Oh, it should be current user dot email here.
Oh.
And then you're still getting it.
It's gonna be a lot of errors. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, let's go to the ERP model. There's something we have there. Let's see here. I'll try to put in the space.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't need the parentheses in actuality, do I?
No, you don't. And if you remove the parentheses, you can add the space back.
You go back to your home page.
This one right here. So most of the time when you're looking at somebody else's code, this link to is not going to have parentheses. So it makes sense to start getting used to it. So I'm just going to remove the parentheses. And then it's going to look like that. But now we have the ability to log in. So if I type in my username and the same password that I use, then I'm logged in, right? And I can log out as many times as I want and log back in. Any questions? You're good? Run down or? Okay, so yeah, that simplified a lot of the process of creating users and all of that. The Rails tutorial goes into a lot of detail as to, that's basically what the Rails tutorial is for, like 10 chapters probably. It tells you how to create a logging system.
I imagine that's a lot of code.
And Rondell went through it, right? Where
That's so many times.
so yeah, we decided for this class now that it just wasn't necessary to
I like this way.
to
I got confused so many times. And it was just small stuff that you had to catch. That just messed you up.
yeah. As most of the apps that you're going to be making, you're probably going to use device. So there's no point in knowing the intricacies of a logging system.
That way you can focus on the requirements for the app that are not covered by some other things, more specific things like the survey here and
Right, yeah.
storing and searching for the information.
Not to mention it was a whole lot. This time I would start reading, and it would take me like over an hour to finish the chapter because you're trying to read and like take stuff in it, but they go so far in detail and they jump out and they jump back in. It's just like, but this way I like this is more hands-on and you're seeing exactly what it's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, device makes it a whole lot easier when you're doing anything with a logging in, logging out type securities and stuff.
Yep. And so let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you're ever curious though as to how you would create a logging system, you can go through the Rails tutorial. Yeah. Let's see. Any other questions
Are there any other gems other than Devise that sometimes commonly get used
for logging? Yeah, there are other gems, but Devise is really the one that everyone uses. So if you ever want to look at what other gems people are using, a really good site is called Ruby Toolbox, and which is ruby-toolbox.com. So there, it looks like they're updating it right now. It used to look better, but yeah. So if you look for, let's see, login for Devise, you might have to wait for them to update it. Then I hadn't. This must have been recent that they changed it. So never mind. Yeah.
So they said they don't feel like there's any need to get the original source code running again if the server went down.
Yeah, it's just yeah, the server that they were hosting on, it went down on June 7th. So it'll probably be back up because a lot of people use it, or maybe someone might create something else. But sorry about that. So you, but you can probably search for just on plain Google. The nice thing about this site was that it gave you which were the most popular gems, so that you can popularity tells you a little bit about whether you should use it or not. If something's very popular, then that means that a lot of people are using it, and then you should probably also use it because then it's going to be well supported later on in the future. Let's see, Rails Devise alternatives. So for example, Clearance, looks like Clearance is another gem for logging in. So yeah, there are other gems out there, but Devise is the most popular one. All right, so the main thing for this class though was that we were able to quickly have the ability to log in and log out users from the system. right. So next class, I'm going to, we're going to have a short quiz. And the short quiz is going to be on a little bit on migrations and a little bit on templates. So ERB stuff. And then we're going to continue with this app next time as well. All right, so if there's no other questions, then we'll just end the broadcast right now.